This is a two-parter. It's actually about writing versus vlogging when it comes to the new art world of the early 21st century. I call it creating art in a post-Marshall McLuhan land. And mainly, it's about how we create this art, either through writing or through filming ourselves, or even speaking like I'm doing right now, and also about unfortunate bloggers by the name of Ted Sallis and Brett Stevens. So maybe I should go first about Ted Sallis and Brett Stevens first. Ted Sallis has kind of this autistic blog on a blog spot, which I still use, called an eginotes.blogspot.com. And every day he writes about his interest in the far right. On July 8th, 2020, he wrote more on Yaki and race, Francis Parker Yaki, and understanding Rocky's motivations. And he just writes for about 600 words, less than that. And so his yesterday's article was, I guess, against accelerationism. So anything that appears in his mind, he'll write on paper. As for Stevens, on his blog America.org, he has an article titled Periscope July 7th, 2020, and gives a short 500-word rundown about how he thinks where the far right is going. Stevens is also another type, interested in the heavy metal scene who, and his article yesterday was Definition of Conservatism, basically has been writing every day for the past decade about his interest in things. And bloggers, I guess, are like that. What I'm really saying is that bloggers will, every day, write something 5 to 6 days a week. And you have those old fuddy-duddy boomer types that need digest their 500 to 2,000 words every day. Now, that's very different compared to, say, clicking on this video you're hearing right now and hearing my voice as I'm talking and explaining to you. Hypothetically, I could actually just read Stevens or Sallis's article, and you can get the same content. There might be noise, and you'll hear it, but you still digest it. So I want to go more into this about what Sallis, because in particularly about how kooky Sallis really is on some of his articles. So I believe back in February 28th, 2019, he wrote an article about me. And he said that, I'll quote him actually. Quote, "I'll say one thing though, not about the accusation and feud itself, but about a perfect example of the horrifically bad judgment I often write about. Why was Greg Johnson ever associating with this pill eater to begin with? Asian Aryanism. It was obvious that any serious white nationalist site should have nothing to do with pill eater, or Buttercup Dew for that matter. Why should an alleged white nationalist still pro-miscegenation? Why should it promote and legitimize an Asian bile? For what purpose? To create an ethno-state whose paradigm is Jonathan Derbyshire's measured groveling to Rosie? Wither Asian Aryanism?" And he also goes to believe how strongly integrated this pill eater is in the movement. Do you still have any doubt that for the yellow fever, alt-wrong, race realist, Asian supremacist faction is a fundamental part of their movement, Inc., a complete nobody, a race-mixing cipher, is a pillar of the movement activism, a minor pillar, but one nonetheless. This pill eater was something of such worth that it was appropriate to have an activist relationship with, interact with, and talk about private matters with. And, let's see. I want to see. I think that's right. That was my John Tyndall accent, by the way. Or if you ever remember the film Harold and Maude, when there was this interest with Harold being interested in Maude, and his priest is getting disgusted over the dead flesh. That kind of flashed in my mind. So a mix between Harold and Maude and John Tyndall, if that makes any sense. Well, I just wanted to play at this, and okay, well, oh yeah, this part. Assuming a self-described, socially awkward white male who likes Asian girls, who would have guessed? You get the point. And pretty much that Salas writing every day. And the thing is, though, he doesn't want to do a blog. He could go on YouTube and get, 10,000 views or 2,000 or whatever his 500 to 1,000 YouTube subscribers want, and he could get easily more views than writing. Writing, you seem to be targeting a older audience who remembers the days of New York Times or academic journals. So I assume that people who read these daily blogs are these like pseudo intellects. In a way, writing allows you to use specific words that someone like me who's improvising and doing YouTube cannot really say. Like right now, I just have a TXT file, some words I'm about to say, and I improvise usually for 10 to 20 minutes on that matter. And with writing, you can do 500, 600 words and 2,000 words and just say whatever you want. I mean, if a human being can like casually get down 2,000 words a day, then the best 1,000 words can be his blog. And eventually, I guess that makes a book, right? And so writing allows you to be a pseudo-intellect. And I think that goes with Bret Stephens. As Bret Stephens, who kind of, worships Ted Kaczynski, this classical, Nietzsche nihilism that's not a liberal bourgeois nihilism. And yet, the only thing we have on Stephens is like a mere red ice interview that he did. And you could definitely tell he was like the metal kid back in the day or something like that. But, he could actually be like a YouTuber and get more views and more money and more cash and more fame just by filming oneself. But he doesn't. And so this makes me think about how people prefer this medium of writing versus viewing. I actually just found something. I think I found he did an interview a year ago. But he's no different than he was. But I remember Stephens talks like this. Okay, so now back to the main point. Actually, wait a second. Well, maybe one more thought on Ted Sallis. He actually wrote another article about me, calling it 2019 to 2020 in review, and he thinks Pill-Eater. And he thinks that Pill-Eater will be 2020. I kid you not. This is called the Once and Future Year 2019 to 2020. And a question about what future feuds will be, he says Pill-Eater will be the next feud. But I think this is insane, and I think Sallis is a crazy cat lady who's basically no more toxic than a child predator. A predator after children doing these things, and so I don't know. So he just thinks that he wants me to make more videos. So God bless him. But anyway, this guy is probably, if not one of the most despicable people ever, because all he does is talks about his closed circle and how he's mad at the world. But maybe that's an example of why the far right is nutty to begin with. All right, now I think part 1 is actually done. Now for part 2. So, okay, hypothetically, right now I'm speaking through my MacBook Air. I get a picture on Dan Brew of cute, Japanese art, of cute, Asian women I like, post them, talk about things, and I just press the record and look at my text file, and then I edit the file, maybe increase the volume level, and then I upload it to YouTube and BitChute. And that's my art. And people listen to it, and they like it, and they share it. And they said, ooh, Pill-Eater, ooh, I didn't know Pill-Eater went with dated a trans women before, and all that frivolous stuff. Hypothetically, I could write it and pretend I'm like some William Burroughs or Peter Sotos type, but why bother? I mean, if I had a computer, I would be typing on the keyboard going tick, 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 and do my 2,000 words and edit down. I really don't like editing. And so you realize how human we are when, like speaking in front of the microphone with all my blemishes and all my mistakes. It's kind of like when Chris Henson, when he started, his YouTube channel versus Henson's vs. Predator, he did some few mistakes where when he was trying to do like a YouTube banner, he just got himself sitting on the chair. And it was really cool in punk DIY, and I love that. But I guess some people have a tire, when they go on YouTube and they have to be like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye or something like that, and they have to have all these professional cameras or like this fake Instagram girl, And I always never believed that, and I always thought my art was kind of like a punk rocker in his bedroom making an Elliott Smith indie tape and pressing record and then just, reading what I read recently. I mean, this is basic what, English professors do to their students when they have that stupid circle and they say, "Tell me, what did you read from Swinburne? He hates the patriarchy, wow!" There's this stupid ideological head agreeing. But that's just one way to make art. And I really want to get on this fact that the way we create art, metapolitics, this fake, phony movement called metapolitics, it assumes that, Marshall McLuhan, the message is the media is the message, and if you infiltrate the media, you can control people's wills and minds, and kind of like fashion statements. Well, this is actually what capitalists, corporations believe in too. So there's nothing new about that. I think it's more about the artist and how we do art. And now, if we really rely 100% on YouTube, who's banning people, by the way, of how we speak, then, well, what can we do on YouTube? We can film ourselves. We can audio read, be like Stefan Molyneux Everyday Anarchy and just read my 3-hour book to you. I can upload my music through DistroKid, and you can find a link there. I can, make a movie. So yeah, music, visually. Maybe I can make video art too and be like, my video synthesizer and be like Disco Valente, No Motion. I used to know that guy in Florida. Not the musician, but the video synth man who did the Taicho synth. Owlbee Man? I forget his name. It's been like 6-7 years. But we could do a lot. The only art that we can't really do is... actually you can film yourself on like some anime paint program while you're drawing and just talking. So much of technology is like a third eye that infiltrates the way we create art. And I realize that consumption has to do with this type of art and what people want and how can we express ourselves. And really, I'm asking the bigger question, is it really important to be some kook like Ted Sallis and just like every day write thoughts of this minor schizophrenic nobody world scene on the internet that like the masses do not care about? In fact, the masses would be appalled about like going on the deep web. I always think that, and I always think like it's always in someone's head, and writing makes you feel pretentious. You could be like H.P. Lovecraft and write all these powerful words, but then when Lovecraft speaks, he's not the same what his writing is. There was a YouTuber comment who wrote about the black guy, Jesse Lee Peterson, and in his comment he wrote, I actually have it screen capped. Let's see if I can find it. It has 721 up likes, and James Flame writes, "Jesse Lee Peterson interviews have taught me that being well-spoken has no relations to intelligence." That's right. So if I sound like a really nice guy I sound an academic background, well, that has nothing to do with the correlation of intelligence. Someone could have mutism, but on paper, it construed some bigger thoughts about the world and things like that. And so much of it is an act, and writing, I believe, can be an act. You could be like some silly goth high school writer and use the biggest words ever, but it means absolutely nothing because the person is charading as My Nationalist Pony, Buttercup Dew, who's writing about skateboard culture and arguing skateboard culture is implicitly white. Yeah, like not talking about Asians or Mexicans in it. That's really ignorant, but that's the point. It's this kind of way where you can hide your rhetoric. It's this Paul Fesselian class wooing that really has no place with the relations to the world. And I see almost the same as acting on the other side of the coin, that if I was at Giga Chad filming myself on Instagram or on Tinder, people would like me and think things about me. So we should maybe be talking about mimic desire in this internet world and how much it controls people. But importantly, we have to think in terms that if someone uses the platform of YouTube, you're really doing vlogging or writing or music or art, and all these are intertwined in some way or another. And I believe that they're superior forms of it. And it might as well be like Victor Flusser, who says, "Does writing have a future?" Well, I really like that Flusser book. I really think now videos are becoming its own impersonal way to measure things. I think writing is its own esoteric thing and should be outside the way, I don't know, its subcultures attract certain art forms, and just sometimes messages, this bullshit metapolitics idea of the world, it doesn't make sense when people believe writing attracts a higher IQ level. No, it's really just some weird of putting the words together and being shallow, you know? Maybe think about how Chinese students write English and how they get, perfect A's by being precise, but where's the spirit in it? What does it mean? So intelligence is more than just one side of the coin. And messages, there are certain mediums that work better for messages than one outdated form of it.